Hello, my name is Marissa Hernandez. I am the lead of the instructional design team at CSULB. For the last 3 years, we've been working with the AIM Center to create the Faculty Advocate Incentive Program. The program is designed to train faculty on creating accessible instructional materials, accessible beachboard courses, and to empower faculty members to become advocates on behalf of the program with their colleagues.
We formed a faculty initiative program where faculty is paid a stipend in order to convert their complete course into accessible format, not just their documents, but their videos. It goes into caption. Their PDFs are all converted into accessible format. So anything that's going on their online course has to be accessible. So we make sure that they complete all of those things here, and then once they're done, they get a stipend.
Some of the day-to-day issues that I face as a student with a visual impairment as far as inaccessible content is PDF files that are scanned, which means they read as images, and also PDFs that aren't very clear. And I also run into issues with Microsoft Word and PowerPoint files where the professors will put images in those files and they read as JPEGs, which with a screen reader doesn't read correctly.
Accessibility is critical for our campus. It allows for all students, no matter what your disability is, to have access to instructional materials.
But in my previous institution, yes. There was countless times where the material wasn't accessible and I had to take it to the disabled students office at that institution, and they were not as quick about getting things put in the proper formats.
I read the call for the program and it sounded great. The word accessibility is kind of one of those buzzwords, and I was like, this sounds wonderful, like sign me up. I'm always a big advocate for being a dual teacher and a learner and different ways to expand, my pedagogy. But my actual idea of what accessibility was very vague, and I was quite naive with it. So I knew that it was a good thing, but in terms of what it was or what it entailed, I had very little background.
I had some sense of it. We started captioning videos years ago. But it's a moving target. I mean, I was amazed. I was totally overwhelmed with how much change has happened in that arena in the last couple of years, actually.
I thought I was very comfortable developing accessible content to my courses until I actually went through this program, and then I realized there were a lot of things that I didn't actually know about it.
The AIM Center is a center that's divided into 4 components. We have an open lab, we have an alternative media center, we have a faculty development center, and we have a training center. And it's for students with disabilities to be able to come in and have access to all the assistive technology. We do alternative media where we convert course materials and books into different formats, Braille, e-text, and we convert e-reserves into accessible formats for the library. We also check Beachboard faculty to make sure that their course content is accessible, and we also work one-on-one with faculty to help them create accessible formats for their Beachboard, as well as check academic affairs websites to make sure that their web content is accessible. And if it's not, we'll help them convert it.
As a faculty member, as part of the program, we had to think about different ways of making your course more accessible, ways that usually you don't really think about. So they teach you different tricks, different tools, different technology that you're supposed to use to make the course more accessible. Many times using programs that you're actually really used to, just not in the way that they show you how you should.
So I picked a course that I wanted to start the project with, and I brought that course and all the subsequent materials to the AIM Center and was mentored one-on-one. And we first started with kind of the Word documents, and then we went through PowerPoints and Excel in terms of translating all of that and ensuring that it was accessible. So we worked one-on-one, and we'd start with like a project, like a template of one thing, and then I would go on my own and translate that to all the other materials and then bring it back.
Well, I like the fact that there was really strong support from the staff that works with accessibility, and I got to work with one of the staff members over there who is disabled, and actually got an opportunity to use the same kind of software that she's using to interpret the world.
One of the greatest benefits of the Faculty Advocate Program is that it really worked with my schedule, and so I was able to tell them my teaching schedule when I was here, what days on campus I was here, and the staff was really willing to work with my schedule and find time slots that were available. And the training itself and the mentoring itself wasn't that time consuming. They gave a lot of information, but they broke it down in a very concise way that also afforded the opportunity to walk away with some handouts and resource tools that I could further reference. And so I was really flexible with my time and schedule.
The program is successful for those who attended. It is a great opportunity for faculty to participate in because it leads to student success.
I think the biggest thing that stood out for me was the shock that faculty actually received once they realized that the documentation that they were putting up there was not working for students with visual limitations or for students who had severe mobility limitations. And they ended up having a student in their class that was blind, and they were really shocked to know that they did have a student in their class that was blind and that their course was now accessible. And it really helps me out that these faculty go and tell other faculty about us and that we actually can help other faculty.
Since I went through the program, nowadays when I actually prepare my courses, when I actually plan my courses, I actually not only stop to think ahead of time of what I'm supposed to be doing, what, for example, the content that I'm developing, how that's going to be accessible, or how that's going to have to be made accessible, but also in terms of getting the content already in that structure. So I make my life easier from the beginning by having that already planned. So the tools that I learned from this program actually allowed me to think ahead in terms of what am I going to have to do, how much work is this going to be, or how can I make my life easier.
So what's happened is I did it in one of my courses, and once we went through the whole process and everybody was happy with the response, we applied all of those ideas into all of our courses now. So it really didn't impact just one course. It impacted, well, we do about 50 sections a year of our capstone class, and for the most part they are all accessible.
Easy takeaways from the program, like font considerations and template considerations and color contrast, just like easy quick fixes I now think about when I'm developing curriculum and developing new materials. Whereas before, I would just focus on the content and not necessarily how that content was structured.
So what stood out for me working with faculty is faculty actually realizing how easy it is. I think that because accessibility is a buzzword and it can be very intimidating because it's very comprehensive, the subject's very comprehensive, faculty, once they're in the program, actually realize that it's pretty easy to do. It's just knowing the best practices and the guidelines.
Having accessible course content in my courses is important because I get to take advantage of all the materials that my classmates are using to complete their papers, their assignments, that sort of thing, and it also makes me feel like I'm not being shoved in a corner, whereas if the material was not accessible, that's how I would feel.
So what stood out for me when working with faculty is that faculty actually realized how easy it is. I think that accessibility is a buzzword and it can be very intimidating. Faculty, once they are in the program, actually realize that it is pretty easy to do. It's just knowing the best practices and the guidelines.